So let's go on. Let's see the underworld for the Etruscans. So in Etruria, there was the thinking that the dead lived on after death. Uh, the tombs were built like houses for this, and there were symbols of potential rebirth that clearly show, as for example, eggs in the hands of the dead. If the dead lived on, what sort of life was envisaged for them? That was considered a journey, but once the body or the cremated remains are in the tomb, then it's not the journey's end. The tomb was house-liked for the deceased's accommodation and comfort, but it seems that the soul, rather than staying put in the tomb for eternity, went off somewhere else, in fact to the underworld. Representation of the underworld are not common in Etruscan tombs and are only late in date. So at this point they are a mixture of Greek visions and Etruscan demons. So from the 5th century, the mood changed in the decoration of Etruscan tombs that before were very serene, colorful, showing only the serene life of the deceased, or to remember the life more than the underworld. From this moment on, we start to see more somber and gruesome scenes of parting, where the deceased are shown leaving their loved ones, often surrounded by underworld demons, such as the so-called Karun and the winged female Vance. In the Etruscan mythology, Karun was the psychopomp, so the guardian of the underworld. He is often portrayed with the goddess Vance, a winged goddess also associated with the underworld, and Karu is ugly with pointed ears, a hooked nose, and many times having a hammer in his hands. The underworld figures are sometimes gesturing impatiently for a human to be taken away. The handshake was another common motif in Etruscan tombs, as the dead took leave from the living. This often took place in front or near a closed double doorway that presumably was the portal to the underworld. So in this new scenes about the underworld, we can see many demons that were part of the underworld of the Etruscans. Many times they had blue skin to identify them. So, for example, in this tomb found in the 1980s in the city of Tarquinia, the best known for frescoes in tombs, we can see many of them. That's why it's called the Tomb of the Blue Demons. Then in Tarquinia too, we have the so-called Tomb of the Orcus. So the Orcus is the underworld. This tomb had two phases. In phase one, that's of the mid of the 4th century, we can see a death demon, winged and blue-skinned, so probably was Charon. In the same phase, we can see the portrait of the wife of the deceased that was in the tomb, called Velka, the famous portrait of Princess Velia. So in a banquet scene with his husband. Here again are close-ups of Velia. We have seen her talking about the importance of Etruscan women. The second phase of the same tomb portrays figures of the underworld. So we have Geryon on the left with Persephone and Hades, the three of them in the underworld. So all of them are labeled so we can identify them. So Persephone and Aitya. Aitya is the name of Hades for the Etruscans. Then interesting is this tomb called the Tomb of the Typhon. The Tomb of the Typhon is a rare example of the late Etruscan period, at a time where the city Tarquinia, with so many fresco tombs, was under Roman rule. The tomb occupied by an aristocratic family called the Pumpu is one of the biggest in the necropolis of Tarquinia, the city of the dead. There was a long corridor to enter the tomb with two lateral rooms, and the tomb derived its name from the painting of a typhon on the main pillar. As well as the typhon, there are depictions of other underworld deities. The tomb walls have been all transferred in the National Museum of Tarquinia. So here we can see the tomb and the pillar with the depiction of Typhon. So the inscriptions in this tomb are both Etruscan and Latin, because we have said that now Tarquinia has been englobated into the Roman world once the Romans started to conquer Etruria, so the land of the Etruscans. Typhon was a titan with serpent legs. In the Greek myth, Typhon was a monster born to Ge, so the earth, that had 100 burning snake heads and spoke with voices of men and animals. He battled with Zeus, and in one of many tales, Zeus crushed Typhon's smoking body under a mountain. Some say Zeus threw Sicily on top of him, giving Mount Etna, so the volcano life, the Sicilian volcano life. Here we can see the monster legs are snakes and its palms are flush against the ceiling, holding it up. His grey-blue colors reflect the grimness of the realm of Charon and his lord Aita, Hades. So let's see some connections with Roman sagas. The most important one is in this tomb in the southern Etruscan city of Vulci, that's in northern Latium, the region of Rome, called the Tomb François, because of the name of the discoverer. You see, it's a very elaborate tomb, a very rich tomb. On all the walls of this tomb, dating in the 4th century BC, we have frescoes depicting mythological events from Greece and legendary events from Etruscan Rome. So, from the time in which Rome was ruled by the Etruscans. So, in Rome ruled 3 kings. The second one of these kings, that was the 6th king of ancient Rome, was called Servius Tullius according to tradition. So in one account he is described as a slave. Servius means a slave, servant. And this slave, according to this story, married a daughter of the previous king of the city and succeeded then him. But the greatest Roman historian Livy did not believe that Servius Tullius could be as slaves, and said that Tullius' mother was a queen of an Etruscan city, which had been sacked by the Romans. So Tullius' mother was captured, and to pay homage to her regal origins, she was allowed to live in the palace, and so was possible for his son to meet and then marry the king's daughter. Another legend represents Servius as a soldier of fortune, a mercenary, originally named Mastarna, from Etruria, who attached himself to the leaders of the city of Volci, called the brothers Vibenna, and especially one of them, called Silius Vibenna. After various adventures, Silius was beaten, but Mastarna came to Rome with remnants of his army. He named the Cilian Hill, one of the most important hills of Rome, after his deceased friend. But some suppose that Silius Vibenna had placed a settlement there. We have evidence of these stories in paintings of Etruscan heroes in the Francois tomb at Volci, so the city where the brothers Vibenna were supposed to rule. So a figure labeled Mastarna and others labeled as the Vibenna brothers appear there. So this is incredibly interesting because we have the legend and we have the evidence on an Etruscan tomb with the names of the characters that we have in the legend about the beginnings of Rome and the first kings of Rome. So this is a close-up of the group about Mastarna and Silius Vibenna. So it's interesting because all the figures in this tomb are labeled, and so we have the names. So here there are other couple of warriors, so connected with Roman sagas, but two showing Etruscan myths. And then finally in the same tombs we have Greek myths. For example, here we have a scene of sacrifice of Trojan prisoners in front of Achilles, Ajax, a winged female demon, and Charon, the blue demon with the hammer. So you see a mixture of Trojan saga, so coming from Greek mythology, and Etruscan demons. Then finally, connecting with Roman origins and Roman sagas, we have this statuette coming from the Portonaccio temple in Veii, the same of the group of Heracles and Apollo, and of the antefixes with the head of Medusa. So in the group of votive offerings in this temple, dating at the end of the 6th century BCE, and this is not the only example, we have several in this city sanctuary. It's a figurine of the Trojan hero Aeneas carrying his aged father Anchises during his flight from the sack of Troy. The meaning of this is that in this city very near to Rome, just across the Tiber, the Etruscans knew very well the myth and the story about Aeneas flying from Troy and having the travel supposed to arrive to Italy and founding the dynasty from which eventually the founder of Rome will come, so Romulus and Remus. Okay, then we will see in next video to start with Roman mythology. Bye!